I'm more upset with Greg Biffle. He's the most unprofessional little scaredy cat I've ever seen in my life. He wouldn't even fight me like a man after. He needs a freaking whooping. I'm going to give it to him.
Welcome to the Intentional Wreck Podcast, the podcast made by race fans for race fans, from the casuals to the lifelong gearheads. My name is Jeff, and I'm here with my fellow hosts Corey and Finn, and you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio under the name Intentional Wreck. You can also find us on Twitter under the handle @intwreckpod. That's at INTWRECKPOD. Also coming soon, you'll be able to find us on TikTok and Instagram. We'll have that handle listed in the bio. So, pivotal roadie this past week, we had a fantastic IndyCar race that was followed by a not so exciting Xfinity Series race, which was then followed by, in my opinion, and I think plenty of other people's opinion, a fantastic race at the Indy road course this past week. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I thought it was another statement on taking the stage break cautions away from road courses being a pivotal factor in really ramping up the excitement at these races. I know there's going to be a few folks that are kind of sitting in the back going, that's no fun. There was no stops. There's no cautions. There's nothing that was really exciting. It was boring, blah, blah, blah. And to be honest, fine, take that opinion. But at some point, you kind of got to ask yourself, are you there specifically to watch compelling racing, or are you there for the sideshow? Because when it all comes down to it, those wrecks, in my opinion, while they can be entertaining, they add to the drama, there's compelling aspects to them. It's the sideshow compared to the racing. Do you want to watch them go fast, or do you want to watch them stop really fast? What do you want to do? What did you guys think?
Man, I felt like the whole strategy thing, obviously, you always will run risk, and there is always the risk, and this is what makes sports so great, is that nothing can happen. I'm going to go on a small tangent real quick here, because I get in conversations with my wife, and I talk about the way women have friendships, and I'm about to get completely roasted for this one. But the way women have friendships.
Buckle up, everybody.
Oh, baby. What I've noticed a lot of times is women friend groups or women friends will watch a show together. Okay, just to be clear, this isn't a hot take. It's a very tame take, okay? Wasn't breaking down the female mind. But women will watch shows together. That's not a bad thing. Guys will watch shows together. We don't normally watch episode to episode. I'll normally just be like, hey, Corey, did you see, the new Family Guy? And you're like, nope. And you're like, all right. And then that's that. Right. But, girls will, watch and, almost live tweet each other doing it. And that's great. And I'm very happy if that is the experience you have. But at the end of the day, TV shows will always fall flat to me. How many times Game of Thrones gets to the finale and the last season falls flat? How many shows get to the finale and fall flat? And the reason why they fall flat is because even if it's big and quote unquote epic, and that's because it has to. It's manufactured. This is stuff that's written, right? You can't have Jon Snow wake up in bed, slip and fall on his sword, die, and then the Night King wins because Jon Snow accidentally died or choked on his cereal that morning. And, those random things that could occur in real life, or Jon shows up and instead of battling through all the guys, one of the dudes that's meaningless in the army gets lucky and gets Jon Snow right in the back and paralyzes him forever and kills him. Those things can't happen in these war movies and these epics. They have to be epic. And because you go into it knowing it has to be epic, it'll never be epic enough. Whereas guy relationships, I feel like, and obviously women are in sports, but a lot of guy relationships and friendships are built around sports. And the reason I bring all this is the fact that something boring very much can happen, like a Martin Truex Jr. 200 laps led win, or 80 laps of no caution, so you get no restarts at the road course. The fact that you could go and watch the Super Bowl and it be the Eagles versus the Patriots, which is considered one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time, or you can get the Patriots versus the Rams, which was one of the most boring Super Bowls of all time. What makes the sports stuff that when it's great is the fact that it could just not be anything. There's no writers. There's nobody forcing SVG to pass 17 cars and in a car he's never raced in before to go battle and take the lead. There are all these epic events. So while it might feel boring or we might go, oh, that wasn't good, it's important to remember that these things that where we have a long green flag run and it's 80 laps, and it's the longest green flag run since like 2016 in NASCAR, that's okay because we're also going to get the opposite, which is going to be 7 cautions, 20 restarts at the end of the race. So that's my big spiel about sports is I'm okay when we have a day where it's green flags all day long. And it wasn't not exciting. We had Chase Elliott running down the leader at the end of this race. Got a little close, but all right, I said enough. Corey, that was my spiel.
Well,
I
no,
appreciate y'all letting me spiel.
No, it's cool. And I'm going to piggyback off of that a little bit because as you're kind of talking, I'm thinking about it, right? First of all, nobody saw the Michael McDowell thing coming. So that
Right.
in and of itself is kind of, is interesting to see someone like McDowell from a sort of back marker team from Motorsports get the win. But here's my issue. Yes, it was not the most exciting race, right? And you guys know I've made no secret that I'm not like the biggest road course fan. I enjoy them. They've grown on me throughout the course of this year as we've been doing the show and talk about it more and more. But here's my beef. Don't give me 2 of them back to back. And
Yeah.
especially don't give me 2 of them back to back the second and third to last races of the regular season. Like
Right.
I don't like this aspect of it that they did where yeah, it's cool that McDowell won and it was exciting with Elliott running him down and all that, but like can we get back to an oval now? Like I'm not,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like I didn't want this and then now we're going to Watkins Glen. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just kind of ready for Daytona.
Right. I mean, we had Loudon and Richmond, which are good races, but they're not breathtaking races. Michigan was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Michigan was awesome. And
But
yeah,
3
I
road
just- I don't
courses:
know. I don't
Chicago
want-
road course, Watkins Glen, and then
Yeah.
Indy. I'm with you. I'm with you on.
I don't love them back to back. I will just say that.
Yeah.
I hope that we get a little more beating and banging at Watkins Glen than we got at Indy, but I really don't think that's going to happen unless you're Joey Logano, who just totally didn't even bother to slow down going into turn 1 and
Yeah.
wiped out his teammate.
Wiped out his teammate, and then that led to SVG taking out Ty Gibbs, who Ty Gibbs ended up driving back up to 14th from the rear. I think the race, when we say boring, I think it's important to look at, like, obviously NASCAR's done a big job since the playoffs last year of giving every car the onboard camera treatment. That really makes it easier to follow your favorite drivers and the important drivers. And we have something like this where you have the ringers. I had 5 screens up on top of your stream. You had your stream for the race, which we totally were streaming legally, completely. I had SVG from YouTube stream on one screen, and over here I had Brody, I had Gibbs. I was going to Briscoe, to Bowman, to Kamui, to just pretty much anybody. Chase Elliott, he was running down the leader. There was some drama in this race. Suarez it looked like Suarez had the strongest car on the long runs. McDowell had a little bit more sauce in the beginning, but Suarez had done a really good job on, they were highlighting how he had gotten down pit road and been very aggressive in that kind of to slow down, get to the line, and that allowed him to take the lead on pit road. He had passed McDowell under green. He was better on the long runs. He had a very, very quick car. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the car that won Chicago.
It was just how unfortunate that pit stop.
I
Just
mean,
that little loop of hose, man. Like,
Right. Such a small, minor thing. And we talked about that last time with the pit stops and how minor.
Yes, it's the like when you start talking, especially I think when you don't have cautions, right? The margins of victory, the things that you have to do and get right become so minuscule and tedious.
Right.
Like just that one little piece of hose getting a little bit out of place cost them, I mean, a shot at the win, right? I'm not gonna say it cost him the win, but
no, very much so. I would say that was a loss causing situation because he's the only car that had anything from McDowell. He was running him down. In fact, he kind of get screwed and lost the lead because of lapped cars, and he got pinned by a lapped car and stuff like that. So he only
made a great move to jump him in a lapper, yeah.
Right. So there was Suarez. How about Elliott? I was talking to my buddy after the race. Do you think, in hindsight, it's kind of weird that it looked like Elliott definitely had the speed? I mean, he made up almost 2.5 seconds on a lap. Why didn't he do it one lap before?
Yeah,
Felt
you
like
were freaking out. Yeah,
I was like, "How? What are we doing when And he had some choice words about Rockefeller, the 42, and and in the other lapper at the time, I think it was Ty Dillon, the 77. But he wasn't exactly catching them and on their bumper. He was like hanging behind
Right.
them. I don't know
Right.
what was going on here. I just, because
Just
those
go move 'em.
guys, yeah, those guys moved over as soon as he caught them. I don't know. I don't know if Elliott just kind of felt like he needed to keep him within 2 seconds and he could catch him in one lap from saving tire or not. But I feel like Elliott really played very conservative, considering, again, now he might not have known, hey, do I have more speed than McDowell or is McDowell saving? Because if he pulls on the gas and starts, catching them, they can easily relay that to McDowell, and then McDowell's going to give him a really hard final
Right.
lap. Maybe
Yeah.
he thought he can catch McDowell in a situation, but no, that didn't do anything for me. Did you guys watch any other guys throughout the race, or are you guys mainly just kind of watching the lead battle?
It was a combination. I mean, I watched some of the battle cam, but it wasn't quite as interesting as it is
In the ovals?
typically on an oval, because usually you're following throughout the entire around the entire track. Here the battle cam was on one specific corner, so it wasn't quite the same. So I kind of flip over that,
Yeah.
watch some of Denny's cam, which Denny didn't have a great day. It was about as average as you could possibly have.
Well, they were doing
And that's
strategy.
pretty complimentary.
Them and
Yeah, I
Keselowski
mean,
were doing a strategy call, and you know
Eh.
what? If the caution fell at the right time, they would have been in the right spot, and that's
Right.
the benefit of the lack of stage races. Is
Mhm.
now the smart guys, the guys that that have got the playoff locked up, like Denny or Keselowski, who's going to need a win and maybe feel like he doesn't have the speed, they can go make a risk call on one of these road courses. We saw
Well,
Kyle
and-
Busch
and
did
Denny
it
got a
over there.
playoff point.
Yep,
Denny
he-
got playoff points for
Right.
winning a stage. Like
Well,
that
and
was a
how about
genius move
Keselowski,
by
by the
them.
way? Speaking of, like, my Mr. Terrible at road courses all of a sudden shows up and gets out there and runs the road course of his life from the past few
Yeah,
years.
no kidding.
right.
You
I mean,
know,
we're gonna
I mean,
see
who
here
would have
soon,
seen
but-
that coming?
Yeah, and I mean, Keselowski's got it. I mean, if I would have told you to start the year that going into the playoffs, we'd have 3 straightforward victories,
Oh yeah.
you'd say, oh, which 2 did Logano win, and then which one did Harvick win? I go,
Yeah.
it's Chris Buescher twice and Michael McDowell.
Right.
Like that's it. Ford is really kind of
Proceeded immediately by get the fuck out of here. Like, not a chance.
I know SVG put on the performance of his life in Chicago, and it would be hard to top that. But I want to point out that he looked fantastic and got himself a top 10 in his second start. He was who I was watching all day. And from what I've heard, it's been said that they had engine issues. I don't know. They said earlier in the race that he was having some stickier throttle. And what that means is obviously somebody's talented as him. He knows exactly what percentage of throttle he wants to put into the car. But the problem is when he was wanting to put 10 to 25% in the car and he would hit it, it wouldn't engage until it would, and then it would give him 40. So he
Right.
was unable to really kind of work the throttle like he wanted to. I don't know if that was the engine trouble they had or if they had engine trouble on top of that. But they said that there were some issues with that car. He still worked out a top 10. I watched him. I kept calling it out to you guys. I was like, man, he is running down. He ran down Bell, Truex, Larson, Briscoe. He passed 4 of these cars to get himself up to 6th or 7th, and then they had a slow pit stop on their final pit stop, and that put him behind all of those guys, and then they were unable to pass him afterwards. So I don't know if that's maybe when the engine trouble started to occur there versus the whole race. So, but SVG looked great. I think he's all but locked into a ride next year.
I think so too.
I
He'll be
think
back full time.
I think it's going to be tough. As for the other ringers, Kamui, and he got spun like you mentioned earlier in the race. Didn't look too hot. Looked like these open wheel guys are gonna have to figure some things out. Rockenfeller, I don't blame him at all. It's not like he was prepping to run this course, and it's not like Legacy Motor Club was good at all. Same for Lally and Button. Though Brody, I felt like he had a pretty solid day. I think he finished top 20.
Something like that. Yeah, I
and
think it was like 15th or 16th.
Yeah, he had a pretty impressive ride. So I'm excited to see if he can come back. He's got a lot of skill, and they've had some engine issues whenever he was practicing. So all of his laps were being learned live. He hasn't had any practice in the car. So to finish top 20 in a road course like this, where it's attrition and you're not getting lucky on restarts and people wiping themselves out. This is like second race in 3 races that everybody's finished the race. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And SVG pretty much I mean, you can't stop the guy.
Right.
To your point here, there is he ready for NASCAR? Absolutely. Like, there's
Yeah.
no way. I don't think there's anybody that can deny that.
Is he championship
he-
caliber? That's going to be up to how quickly he can adjust to ovals. But
That's the yeah.
I
I want to
think
see him
he's-
on an oval.
I think pending the team he goes to, he's a playoff lock.
Yeah.
We have
I
way
want
too
to see
many.
him on an oval, and I want to see him stay
He's
away
gonna
from
be-
Ricky
he's gonna
Stenhouse
be-
and kind of see what happens.
He's gonna be a track house.
You
Yeah.
think so? You
I
think?
would, dude. I would bet anything that he ends up a track house.
Right. The only downside is the whole charter system and who owns
All right.
charters. And
Yeah.
but if he can bring international money, and I do think that there would be a situation where they can either rent a charter or whatever's going on. Maybe
Track house is the international team.
How about
That's-
this? Buy one of the Stewart House charters, so Stewart Haas, and let them just be a 3-car team, so they don't have to replace anybody new. They don't have to replace the 10. They can use all their extra funds and focus on that. I mean, for the first time, Chase Briscoe was the only good Stewart Haas car. 6th place, man.
Yeah.
He balled
How
out.
about it?
I would
How
not
about
be I mean, on the other flip side of that, I would not be upset if Toyota approached him with the Gragson situation and the LMC migration over and stuff like that. I would not be angry to see SVG get a crack in a Toyota.
That's
Under
an
the
interesting call.
in the
Yeah.
NASCAR
Right.
realm. I think that'd be kind of cool.
I know Chevy, he's probably going to want to lean Chevy, but I mean, yeah, there's no Chevy rides open. He's coming, it makes sense to go to Legacy. I mean, the downside is that team's awful right now. And granted, with
for now,
Toyota support might change those things. I was actually going to bring this up. So obviously Rockefeller stepped in because Noah lost his ride, and Barry. I don't know. I don't think Barry's going to be the end of the year replacement for this car. I don't think that. I think the fact that it is Chevy's great, but I think Jimmy Johnson steps into the car for a couple ovals.
Ooh, that's a take.
Jimmy,
I don't see
obviously,
that as out of the
didn't-
realm of
I
possibility.
didn't even consider that.
yeah, I
Why
think
wouldn't you? You own the team. What the hell not?
he owns a team.
true.
The car's there and prepped. They don't need to fight for sponsorship or anything, and maybe they can even throw in some of Jimmy's money. He didn't get to do Chicago. Every step away we get from that tragedy is a little bit easier to consider that. And there's going to be some fun races, right? We got the Southern 500 where they're running a throwback scheme. Or did they already do the throwback? Yeah, they already did throwbacks, but Darlington's going to be a fun race. I could see Jimmy doing that. I could see Jimmy trying the Roval with it being in Charlotte. I don't know. It'd be cool. So I do hope that Jimmy, not full time. I don't want to see Jimmy in every car in the ride. I definitely want those to be kind of few and far between. But between him, Barry, but that being said, when he go to Toyota, I think that's John Hunter Nemechek's ride, unless he doesn't want it.
Oh, I don't disagree with that
I
at all.
think that one's pretty much
Yeah.
That's
all but locked up. I think
Right, yeah.
at this point.
So, I mean, SVG makes sense if John Hunter's not ready. John Hunter's still pretty young, but he's looking good and winning races. So, that's good. Let's see. Bowman had a pretty solid day. How did you guys feel? I mean, we only got to saw it twice, but that restart zone being as far back as it was. What were your guys' thoughts on that? Kind of limiting that turn 1 chaos.
I didn't really see it as like. I mean, what
Again, we only got 2 restarts in the
it
whole
was
race.
still right. It was still reasonably chaotic, but like it was just it was
Yeah.
almost irrelevant just because
Yeah.
it only happened twice.
Right.
Felt like a
So, like,
non-factor,
yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
At least
They got
not anywhere
spaced out
close to
real
what it was
fast.
made out to
Yeah.
be.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree. I mean, I get why they did it. Now, to say that like it helped with turn 1, okay, but you're also, I mean, it was on a stretch of track that was only like, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50 car lengths.
right.
So like they're in the restart zone and immediately go into a turn. And it's just like you didn't make it further from a turn. You made it closer to a turn, just a different turn.
Well, they just
So,
didn't
I don't-
want.
I didn't
Yeah,
really get it.
they're okay with that because it's getting up to speed. It's more so the fact that they're going 120, 130 into turn 1 and then stacking up, and it doesn't have that runoff like Coda does. So, but I mean, overall, very solid race. McDowell put a lot of pressure on folks because seriously, that car. I mean, he was out of the playoffs, so now Bubba's on the cut line
Yep.
with Daniel Suarez right behind him, and that is a 28-point difference. And we've got
Yep.
one race that is going to heavily favor Daniel Suarez, and we got another race that's going to heavily favor Bubba Wallace. So, and then Austin Dillon is still here to steal one of these wins for no reason at all, because that's what he did last year. So, but Harvick is, I think Harvick might be the odd man out. I'm going to be honest with you. If Bubba ends up stealing a win or something like that, Harvick might very well be on the way out, because they have just tanked lately. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he's been
dude,
decent.
he's up by like 140 points or
So,
something like that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was just such a bad day at Indy, and he might have been fine. He might have been doing a little bit better than I keep in mind. But just like, I just feel like I'm not seeing any of that speed from Harvick, and that's my problem.
Well, it's a whole team.
Right.
Like,
Right.
The Briscoe, like, yeah, Briscoe had a good day. It was a 2.5 hour charge from 10th to 6th.
Right.
And it's just like, all right, cool. Like, I don't know. It was good to see him moving forward, to seeing him being the good Stewart Haas car. But man, like, to spend 2.5 hours really hoping he could get back in the mix. Like, I'm just honestly, for that reason, I was praying for a caution like the entire time, because it's like, holy shit, here we are with Briscoe actually with a reasonably fast car, and we can't get a caution to get him up to the leader. But
Right.
yeah, but yeah, Harvick was a non-factor. I heard there was something with Almirola. Almirola ran out of gas, I think.
Yeah, he got pushed across.
Just a very Stewart Haas day. But yeah,
Yeah, another day in paradise for the Stewart Haas team. Just another crazy chapter in this wild 2023 book of a season for them. Yeah, it just, I don't know. It's again, we've said it. Feels like every other week we're just like, what is going on? We're past that.
NASCAR wanted parity, man.
Crappy year.
NASCAR wanted parity, and we got parity. We had 16 winners last year.
Yeah.
It's like what, 13 or 14 this year?
Yep.
Yeah, we're in for it.
Yeah,
who won
parity
victory?
you shall have.
Who-
How long? Well,
Yeah, who won
and
victory
I
lane?
think we can finally ask, because I mean, it's
Oh.
been a suspicion, but it's a question. Like, how long do we get to the point in which a win is not an automatic in anymore? And the
Last
other
year,
thing that
because Bowman almost didn't make it last year, despite having
Yeah.
a win.
that's 2 years in a row now where it's come down to the end, and that has been a possibility.
Right. Well, it
So
can't be
you-
this year because
No.
only 16 people
Right,
can
yeah.
win. But
Right, it's 2 years. Yeah, we got 2 races left, and yeah, so you potentially you run that. I'm just with that, and then also you look at where some guys are standing on that playoff bubble, right above it, with enough points that they're sitting above winners. So you really, it's I don't know, it's an interesting situation. You said it perfectly. They've got parity at this point, so yeah, it's going to get more interesting the more that drivers get used to this car, and the more that expands, because we're only really just seeing the beginning of it.
so who's our
Yeah,
victory
well,
lane guy?
I was gonna say one area where there is absolutely no parity at all.
Is
Is
the time that
NASCAR
Corey
Fantasy
forgets all the weeks
Live.
he loses.
I need to do it.
It's that he is the greatest of all time for a 2-week span.
This is what I'm going to
Three.
start doing. I'm going to
Three in
start
a row.
setting my
Three-peat.
fantasy lineup while Corey's talking, so I don't have to
Three-peat.
listen to him. What race are we going to?
So
For what it's worth, this is a pretty good, the one that I had, pretty good layout
Yeah,
for these
sure.
guys. Here, you do your spiel here. I'm going to do
okay.
my.
So I don't really have a spiel. I was kind of just I just have an easy question that maybe we haven't touched on at any point in this season, and I'm just going to put it to you guys for your first blush answer and a quick justification. Of the guys who don't have a win yet, who is the next person to get a race win?
Daniel
Who do you
Suarez.
think that might be?
I'm going to go Daniel
Suarez?
Suarez. Yeah, I mean, he's
So
gotten the pace.
you're asking, who do we think wins Watkins Glen?
Is that what I mean? I don't know. I mean, not if someone who already has a win, like
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
who that doesn't have a win is the next driver to get a win. I will tell you, I agree with Finn. I was going to say Daniel Suarez as well, because I think that performance at Indy was a window to what they are about to bring to Watkins Glen this coming week, and it is going to be It is going to be the Daniel Suarez and Chase Elliott show this coming Sunday. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
One of them will probably
Well,
get it, but
and you know, I know you said people that didn't win, but like Michael McDowell said that this is his best track. And
Watkins Glen.
yeah, he said and they're going to be playing
Bro,
confident and aggressive.
If he goes back to back, I will not believe it.
Interesting. Neither one of you, just out of this, neither one of you mentions Ty Gibbs, given his performance.
That's true.
Going out of here. So, you know, Ty's a possibility. Dinger is always a possibility at a place like this. But out of those, you know, I'll shake it up a little bit. I'll say it's Ty Gibbs. I mean, obviously the obvious answers you want to see, you go, oh, is it Bubba? Is it Daniel? I mean, I'd love to see the whole picture kind of get flipped on its head and have Ty Gibbs get a win.
Nice. I love how Finn is currently setting his fantasy live lineup as we go, and they haven't even like done qualifying yet.
That's how I do it.
He's just, my man is just
At least it's guys I know are strong at the track. But Jesus.
Yeah, but that's my victory lane. I didn't really have anything ready.
No, you're fine.
I'm out of topics. Commander's training camp is going well. Other than
That's
that,
good. Jacoby Brissett threw 4 touchdowns for you guys in my franchise. So, like, you know, there's a plus side. There's a plus
They're
side.
talking about practice.
So, we're heading to Watkins Glen this week. Jeff, what do you have for me?
I have some fast facts for you, Finn. Let's break those down for you. So, Watkins Glen opened for NASCAR racing in 1957. It is as its current iteration, it is a 2.45 mile course. It is a capacity of 39,000. I rounded that up from the 38.9 figure that exists. And that's just with fixed seating, with people being able to stand around, camp out, be around the track and stuff. The number is much higher, but there isn't an actual estimated figure that I was able to find in my very quick, short Googling within the 10 minutes before this show. On top of that, we have 7 turns on this course. The fastest lap for NASCAR Cup Series was in 2019 at Martin Truex with 1:10. The fastest race was Martin Truex in 2017 in 2 hours and 26 minutes. The most wins as a driver on this course is Tony Stewart with 5. Most wins as a team, Hendrick Motorsports with 10. Most wins as a manufacturer, Chevrolet with 21. So those are your fast facts for Watkins Glen coming into this pivotal, almost playoff race.
If I may, I'll add on here. I wanted to point something out that I was just thinking about while you were talking, which is just like Indy, at Watkins Glen, we pit reverse, right? So we are crossing the start-finish line, heading towards turn 1 with pit road to our right. And I want to bring up the conversation we had about Daniel Suarez earlier, about how they went around the front of the car, changed the front left tire, put it back on, and then the jack came down on top of the hose, arrows, and then he got up to run away, to run around, and he couldn't get, it was stuck underneath the tire because it was wound up. Well, if you think about in normal races, the front tire changer goes around the tire the opposite way, turning to his right. So I wonder if muscle memory is, not affected there, and then he gets it in, and that's why the hose. Whereas if he comes back around to change the left front tire, like how we normally do pit stops, and he gets it on, who gives a shit if they drop the car on top of the hose, because he can just drive off at that point. So I wonder.
A penalty though, right?
So there is a penalty for driving over equipment, but I don't know if it would qualify in that situation. Like, remember Ryan Blaney had the issue earlier this year where they only changed right side tires, and then Ryan drove over the cable.
In the cat.
While he was in the cat. but they drove, fucker. Put this on the TikTok, damn it. So he drove over the the cable while the front tire changer is still standing like back to, almost in pit road. So
right.
I think that's the penalty, but them dropping it just on top of the tire, then him driving, I don't even know if A, that would get caught, or B, if that's a penalty. But either way, that wouldn't have stopped Suarez from leaving the box. So that's why I think is interesting is, everything's flipped here. Even the gas can is now on the other side of the car.
I was going to ask that question. Do they legit they flip the gas input to the other side of the car?
Yeah, I believe so.
Like the little nozzle, it's on the,
Yeah, because they don't
It's
make
on
them
the
go all the way around. Yep.
yeah, it's on the other side.
Yep. I wonder if that changes the way all of these things drive.
Well, it's just weird to me. Like, do they have a special car for like these tracks where the gas? I don't even know what to call it. The
Yeah.
gas line is on the other side.
Right.
I don't
Yeah,
know. It
they do.
occurred to me. I'm like, the whole thing is backwards, and the only person in the whole pit crew who kind of their job doesn't really change is the gas man, because I mean, it's just plugging it in, except the car's to your right instead of your left.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah, some very interesting
pit road is, and it's one of those things too where like the Suarez situation, like the pit stops are so interesting to me because it's like you have to take your time and go quickly at the same time. Right, because like that Suarez thing was caused by someone just being a little bit faster than they actually could be, right? Like that split second for him to just look down and see that hose there, pull it out real quick, and they're good, and they may win the race. So I think that's super, super interesting, especially when you start talking about flipping it in reverse from what these guys do over and over and over again.
Right.
And it's
in a sport where repetition is king, and you're constantly, I mean, you watch the pit guys practice, and it's that, like, you ever watch the tire changers, and their drills are constantly like up, in, down, down, off, up, in. Like, it's just this like constant thing. But and that wasn't the only time that we saw like some weird like pit snafus in the Indy race. Kyle Kirkwood comes in to the pit box and starts pulling up and gets into what he thinks is his stop. And he gets there and nothing happens. And he's kind of like, what the hell's going on? And the guys on his radio, they're like, that's not your pit box. And he had to pull 2 boxes ahead to get up to his actual spot, which was kind of fun to watch too. So it's interesting to see things kind of get turned on their head and see that repetition all of a sudden, spin around and see who adjusts to it best.
Yeah, no, it's just something to keep an eye on, because it's just, you're right, it's a new factor. So Watkins Glen is a fun track, very, very fun road course. A really long start finish line, not as long as Indy, but they get quite a bit of speed, and then they hard break into this right-hander. It's a hair banked. There is a little bit of runoff. They do get nice and fanned out there before they get into this right-hander to turn 2, where they're actually going uphill, up through turn 3 left. There's a little bridge that they cross into turn 4 here. And then there's a nice long backstretch before we get to what we'll call the bus stop. But this is quick little right, left. It's a big passing area. People get really aggressive in there, because coming off of that, if you can get good position, there's a nice banked turn 5. So this is really nice, almost like downhill banked into turn 5. Then another backstretch here coming off of turn 5. There's a little bit of runoff, so they get nice and wide. To this left-hander, I wouldn't say it's 90 degrees, but again, a lot of runoff. They carry a lot of speed through 6 into 7, then back to the start-finish line. So we haven't done a history lane in a while. So I wanted to go ahead and throw something on. No free stuff. Now we can throw this on. I wanted to show you, Corey. Obviously, right now, the biggest thing is the SVG, the V8 supercar drivers coming in and dominating NASCAR. But he's not the first to do it. First of all, what we're looking at here, this is Watkins Glen back in the car of tomorrow days. We had these really boxy, heavy cars. Up front in the Toyota Camry is going to be Kyle Busch. I believe Dale Jr. here is a lap down in the National Guard 88. That is Brad Keselowski in the Blue Deuce. It's Cindric's car now, but he used to drive the Miller Lite 2, which was like, if you've ever heard the name Rusty Wallace, he used to drive the Blue Deuce, and then it was Kurt Busch, and then it became Brad Keselowski. They won a championship that car. And then driving for Richard Petty Motorsports, which is now Legacy, is this 9 car, this Ford Fusion 9 car. That's Marcus Ambrose. This is regarded one of the wildest finishes in NASCAR history. This happened at the Glen. And
back in the 4 manufacturer days as well. 4 different manufacturers all in this little picture here.
Yep. They were driving a Dodge Charger, weren't they? Yep. So let's go ahead and see how this one goes.
Moving around like he might be out of fuel. That's exactly what I was thinking, Andy. I was wondering if he was running out of fuel here.
All right, so they didn't run out of fuel. That's the situation here.
Coming to the white flag.
So this is the last lap here.
I'll tell you, the 2 cars closed that gap. don't know if it's that or if he thinks he might have a flat tire or something like that. He's really moving the car around. It doesn't look very stable right now. 1 lap to go. Kyle Busch, defensive line into turn
Here's
1.
that
There's something
banked
wrong with the 18.
right-hander into 1. Like a big
Now
runoff
Ambrose
here.
trying to get second from Keselowski while he tries to get the lead.
They got really wide.
Contact.
Oh no!
So Keselowski spins the 18, and now it's these two right on each other. Here it goes.
I'm sure
three
Kyle Busch was really happy about that.
off the floor here into the bus stop.
Keselowski's got damage on the left front. Is the tire going to make it all the way around?
Here's the chicane. I mean, they are.
Will the 9 help him? Everybody's in the grass.
It's so good. Like
That might have been the race right there.
this was.
Look at this sliding.
Is the reason why I always had an affinity for road racing. Like coming, for years.
Keselowski's got a problem.
Is coming up and watching races
Trying
like
to
this.
stay with Ambrose. 2 final corners. Do they use the bumpers? A nudge, a
bet they're
push.
gonna use the
Can
bumpers.
Ambrose save it? To the checkered flag. Who gets here first? Ambrose 9, Keselowski 2. Final corner. Marcus
And Ambrose wins
is
this
gonna
race.
win at Marcus
Dang.
Ryan in a remarkable
I
last
don't
lap.
think I've ever been as shocked as I was when they come into this. Look at how hard 9
That might have
brakes.
been the race right there. We'll see. No,
Yeah.
Keselowski's slower.
Completely.
No, Keselowski.
I guess on the last lap.
You talk about sending it.
And
Like,
then
right here.
somehow finds the traction to beat the 2 off the corner, hit them, get side by side. Keselowski's then going to get in, tucked in, returns the favor, just absolutely sends him into the corner. But again, we talked about the runoff that makes Coda so interesting. Watkins Glen has that. Look at that sideways. And then he somehow gets underneath him. Some respectful racing here. Look at them sideways off the corner. Just almost sliding the car into the wall. Insanity.
That is. Oh boy.
Yeah, that is.
I mean, let us get something like that on Sunday, and I will get pumped up.
yeah,
That's the thing, man. It's like this is what road racing can be in
Right.
NASCAR. It
Right.
just, this is what it can be. This is what it has looked like in the past.
and I think that
I'm here for it.
I think
Not
it's.
back to back.
I will say this though, NASCAR made next gen to be all about the road courses and drive optimized and really good brakes. It's almost better when they didn't have good brakes. It's almost better when they are these big boxing machines, and it's really who's got the best craftsmanship behind the wheel to get the most out of these cars. These heavy, just junky things, because when everything's optimized and perfect, that's where you see F1, where nobody's getting passes or 2 passes a race is considered a good day.
Well, so that actually raises something that I wanted to pose to you guys, because I think it's something that I would love to see and I think could be interesting. And I think we're reaching a point in which there would be a pretty solid market for it. So you take what Tony Stewart's done with SRX in doing, these Thursday night races. You get a few guys from NASCAR, you get a few of the retired folks, you get a variety of drivers in a small pool and get out there, run some short tracks and run some dirt tracks and just kind of have some fun with that. I would love to see something spawn out of that's similar, that looks a little bit like the Trans Am series or something like that, for example, and you run road courses utilizing the stock cars or utilizing that same car model type of deal. Yes, you can watch Trans Am, you can go watch IMSA, you can,
Right.
and go overseas, but I would love to see something that tends to be, in the NASCAR scope,
Right.
but running some of the more notable road courses around the country. I think that you can draw an audience with that. And I think that also really would play to some of the new people that we're seeing come in and try and take a run at some of the NASCAR races, and also possibly showcase some young talent and showcase some other drivers that you may not normally see and really give them a shot.
Yeah.
What would you guys think of something like that?
I'd be cool with it. I think I love Jeff, I think last week it was the first SRX race that either of us watched, and it was kind of cool seeing like the mix of, you've watched some before. It was my first one, and well, Tony Stewart just smoked everybody, but seeing like the retired guys and Haley Deegan's out there and Briscoe was out there just kind of like slinging it around a dirt track was cool. If they brought that same energy to, I don't know, name your Mid-Ohio or something like that, like you name your road course somewhere out there.
Virginia International Raceway.
Sure. Yeah. I'm all about it. Why not?
Yeah. You get something that's you get these folks together, you get an interesting pool, you shrink the pool down. You don't need to have 35, 40 cars out there running. You go and maybe do a 20 car pool. You bring in a variety of drivers and make it almost invitational to a certain extent.
Right.
You get them out there. You see if what you can get in it. The broadcast has to be right, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, you bring them together and, you go them out there and get some actual names to go and run some road courses and see what they can do in some stock cars or in something similar like that.
I'm just telling you, you're going to be, sign me up if it's on Thursday nights. Sign me up. Thursday night racing is awesome. That SRX race was mad fun.
So I'm going to share something with you because, you guys like dirt racing, and this was kind of like SRX before SRX. They used to do from like the mid-2000s to like early 2010s this thing called Prelude to the Dream, which was basically a bunch of, it was a lot of NASCAR guys, and Tony Stewart has won 3 of these. Jimmy Johnson won this one in 2010. They get these like late model stock cars out there, and they just go racing. So, guys in this field, you see Tony Stewart starting in the back. This is Jimmy Johnson in the front. And look at these cars.
That is madness.
Just absolutely.
I love the late models, man.
Madness.
They're so fast.
So
It's
Johnson, Bush, Dave Blaney, Clint Boyer's in this race, Ken Schrader, Casey Kane. All of these names are guys that are,
There's Travis Pastrana.
Allgaier, Bill Elliott, Ryan Newman's in this race. I don't know. Carmichael might be. Allmendinger's in this race. Just a ton of names. David Ruderman. And this is all available stuff on NASCAR or on YouTube. And it was a big deal, man. These guys cared a lot about it. So if you want some like legacy, good racing content, like dirt racing, these Prelude to the Dreams are fun to go watch. They they used their actual NASCAR schemes on there, and they all of it went to charity, so it was a big deal. So did I choose the one Jimmy Johnson won? Yes.
Is this before or after Tony Stewart bought the track? He bought it in 2004, right?
I don't know when.
I'm pretty sure. I think they had said that on the S. That was Eldora you were just showing there.
Yes,
so.
it's all at Eldora.
Yeah,
so
it's all at Eldora. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think Tony Stewart already owned the track by that point. He bought it in 2004, and
gotcha.
Put the NASCAR guys on the dirt track and let them have at it.
Let them go. It's fun stuff.
Show
to
me
watch.
Kyle Larson and a super late model on a dirt track.
Where the points don't matter and things like that.
Yeah.
Of course, I say that, and then my driver broke his back. His races.
Nasty.
So, but yeah, Watkins Glen though. Back to the road course. I do agree. Something with the road course, like the old IROC they used to do the road course and stuff like that.
Yeah,
would be super fun. But I will say this: I'm getting kind of all of my road course fill with the actual season. At this point, can we put all of them on a mile and a half and see how they race there?
Right. Well, I'm thinking about, you have a really good point there. The reason why I brought that up is that I feel like there's a compliment factor, right? Is that we're seeing what you'll hear a lot of NASCAR fans say things like they feel like they're kind of shoving road courses in, or they're adding too many, or there's this and that. And I kind of feel like if you were to provide, some side action,
right,
and do like a different series, like you mentioned, IROC is another really good example of like getting something out there that's not directly points related, and get people like kind of pumped on turning right a few times. And then you do something like that, and you especially you lead the championship for that series, right? Like right into a race like this at Watkins Glen. And then here comes the Cup Series on Sunday to go run Watkins Glen after people are already kind of pumped up after what they saw on, Thursday or Friday night or whatever.
Right.
It just kind of adds to the thrill. It complements what you're about to see. I just think that would be a lot of fun.
I agree.
Open wheel doesn't have to dominate, road course racing. Like you can watch compelling racing, and you can watch compelling American cars racing on road courses. it could be fun.
But the downside, or the what allows what we see now, which is Larson doing a lot of dirt track racing, a lot of the, Chase Elliott's done an SRX race this year. Denny Hamlin won an SRX race this year, didn't he?
Yeah, he won the first race of the season.
The benefit is that we don't do practices in throughout the week, right? So that's opened up their schedule. But I do think if you were to do something like this consistently, you'd have to shorten the NASCAR season from February to November. There's no way we're going to convince people in their off time to do these things. But if you were to shorten the season, give them a little bit more breaks, I think that we could see that occurring. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Some of these tracks really don't need 2 races. We could probably just not be there one time and have a break. Because seriously, we've been doing this podcast. It's had, 1 week of actual no racing? We had to take our own mandated break because of everything was going on. Like this,
we're not even driving.
Yeah, and we're not even driving every week. Well, we're not. We're also not making their money every week. So like, let's.
True.
I was getting paid that money. I figured it out. So
we all got to see each other's mugs once a week all the time, and that just became too much. We had to take our own break from it.
Right. So last year Larson won. He won the year before. Elliott won back to back before Larson did. What's the likelihood a Hendrick driver wins this week, or is Hendrick just not the team right now?
Hendrick is not the team right now, but to say that they can't win this race, like Chase Elliott could absolutely win this race. I'm sorry.
Hendrick is the team at this course. I mean, that just they dominate Watkins Glen and have over the years. The proof is in the pudding on that. So
it's weird that we're talking about, and I guess it kind of makes sense that all the resources would be going to the 48 and the 9. Because of the fact that they're the ones not making the playoffs right now. And that could just answer the thing. But really, if I had to say who the best Hendrick cars are right now, performance-wise, I mean, the 48 isn't finishing well, but he's finally got the pace, and he's running up front.
Yeah. What is going on with William Byron?
You know what? It might be what I just said, which is they've got multiple wins.
Well, it's
they're focused on the playoff races.
They failed Tech 3 times last weekend.
That's not uncommon for a team like Hendrick Motorsports, since Jeff's gonna fucking say it. We're notorious for seeing what we can get away with.
Okay. I was just gonna say, like, there's something
there's a
real
Bowman's
fishy going on with the 24.
Yeah.
Because he's so, like, Byron is pretty much locked into the round of 8 at this point. I would say, just based on points or whatever. So they're just like trying to find ways to cheat, right? Like that's what's happening.
Right. Trying to find ways to be innovative.
Okay. All right. Innovative. Got it. Innovative.
All right.
Oh,
not cheating. Not
Finish trained,
innovative.
man.
And NASCAR
is trained
he is
on
drinking that Kool-Aid.
In NASCAR, you don't break rules, you make rules. Okay?
I see.
All right. You find loopholes, and then they make a rule, and then you find another loophole. That's where we're at. So I'm trained. I hope Greg doesn't see this fucking podcast. I'm going to get a text message about that one.
You hold the sticker in a place where they can't see the sticker for as long as you possibly can, and then they see the sticker and take your wins away. And
right. It'll be not one sticker. So who's our favorites here? I mean, we said Suarez. I mean, I think Suarez is a favorite. I mean, he's been very, very fast at road course races. That if that is the same car that they took to Sonoma that he won last year and the one that SVG won at Chicago, then that car's for real at these kinds of tracks. And whatever they got going in the Trackhouse top road course car, if they give that to Daniel Suarez, I don't see why he couldn't also be running up front. He's very, very quick.
Daniel Suarez is going to win this race.
Damn,
yes, he's going to win.
Is definitive.
Yeah. Like there's almost no doubt in my mind. Like if he doesn't qualify first, I will be shocked. Unless there's some kind of massive screw up.
I mean, he finished 5th last year is what I'm seeing here. Now, Elliott and McDowell right there, 4th, 5th, and 6th. That's huge. Allmendinger finished 2nd this race last year, but they've been pretty much nothing. But yeah, I'm with you, man. Suarez is the man to watch this week.
And I've been kind of standing on this hill of Bubba in on points, Chase not making the playoffs, right? Like that's been my kind of mantra for a month now.
Right.
And I think we've come to a point where with the McDowell win, right, we're now in a place where we're going to get one more winner in the next 2 weeks. And I think it's going to be Daniel Suarez. In fact, I will call it. Daniel Suarez is going to win this week, and then Bubba will be out of the playoffs.
Yeah, unless he wins Daytona, right? Which is a tough ask.
Right. So that's kind of the way I see it going. I still think Chase Elliott doesn't make the playoffs. I think I honestly, 99 is a car to beat this week.
Yep, it'll be
Like,
very quick.
no question in my mind.
Very, very fast. What about you, Jeff?
AJ Allmendinger.
Oh, you're gonna go. You're gonna go AJ, man. He's just been
I am
so
gonna
rough.
go AJ Allmendinger. He has not had the best of years, but he is one of those guys that you can absolutely never sleep on in a road race. And I think that he stands a chance to come out there and, shock some people. I also think that based on what we were just talking about as well, in regards to what Hendrick was going to do, I think Alex Bowman has a hell or high water type of showing and comes out there and actually looks better than he has in the past, because I honestly, it's like you were saying before, I think Hendrick is going to go for broke as far as dumping whatever they can into the 9 and the 48. And when you look at the fact that those two are right next to each other in point standings, when you look at the fact that they are identical in how far back they are and where they're going, I think, Chase is going for broke for the win. I think Alex Bowman is going to have one of the more dynamite cars he's had all year, and it's going to be up to him whether he ends up top fiving this thing or not.
And Bowman,
and see what happens.
now Bowman for the Hendrick stuff is he's got 2 top 5s in road courses this year.
Yes.
He's got 3rd at Coda, and he's got
Mhm.
5th this week at IRB. So he's definitely improved a lot in that area. I'm proud of him, but I need wins, not top 5s.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So-
If you want to see him get to the playoffs, you need to see him win.
Here's my
I
benefit.
was only acknowledging that because
Right.
he's another one of these drivers that I think it's easy to sleep on him in potentially taking a roadie. I really do. But I mean, I think AJ Allmendinger is going to be the one that's going to play some spoiler to some of the guys that are sitting in the standings right now,
Right.
and take that other win out of the equation.
And I'm very interested to see, because if he doesn't and we go to Daytona, he's got that qualifying thing down at that track.
Yes.
And he get first and
does.
stay out there. There are some things that are plus for Bowman, but I need to see something. He cannot be spinning. If I see the 48 sideways one more time, Jesus Christ, dude. So, but that's my spiel for Hendrick for the week. We can do it. Come on, Alex. This is
Do we have ringers for this one, or is this just
No, I don't
all,
think so.
Just Alex
we
Bowman.
don't have any ringers coming in
No,
for
Alex
Watkins
Bowman.
Glen? That kind of surprises me, to be honest with
I
you.
don't think so. Yeah,
No, they just-
they
the
announced
funding.
it was a huge deal last week. No one's saying anything about it this week. I
Yeah.
haven't seen anything.
No ringers, no real ringers this week. I mean, Rockefeller might stay for the 42 just because why not? But I wouldn't call that a true ringer. That's a fill-in.
It surprises me, just given the stature of Watkins Glen. I mean, this is a
And
course
a lot
that
of these guys
IMSA runs.
they
That
know it, yeah. Like
Yeah,
Kamui
that's-
should have
it
run
would-
this race instead of Indy.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering. I would love to see a Kobayashi. I would love to see an SVG. I would love to see one of those guys come out there, because they've run that course before.
Right.
But
Yep.
maybe that's the other factor, was just trying to get some experience in something new. Did you guys see the interviews with Kobayashi before they ran the Indy course, and kind of how he was basically it was really cool to see somebody in his position just trying to take it all in
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
trying to learn anything and everything. And then he gets out on the track and Stenhouse says, "Nah, dude."
That shit was so funny, dude. That
It's
shit was so
man,
funny.
he
Ricky
was coming into
Stenhouse,
this with-
American hero.
is wild. What is it with that? What was with Stenhouse and deciding he was like, you know what?
I do
Every
not know,
one of
man.
these outsiders coming into my league, you're gonna
It was
learn
definitely a
today.
thing.
And he decided to make some contact with just about everybody. I don't know what made him decide to be that guy, but Stenhouse was that guy.
He's
yeah.
looking for fanship, and if you can
That's
get
true.
all the people that hate the foreigners in our sport, keep it American.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
an
you get
interesting
that-
take, but you're probably not too far off
Listen,
there. Sir.
listen, with the T-shirts I saw in the crowd when we went to Richmond,
Yeah.
and the dude trying to rip his pants off.
Yeah. You will never you'll never be without seeing interesting folks when you run to a NASCAR race. That is for sure. Our fan base is vast, and there are lots and it has multitudes. So, but I think with that's going to wrap things up for this week. Please make sure you check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio under the name Intentional Wreck. Please like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends about the show. You can find us on Twitter where you can chat with us and interact with us at intwreckpod. That's at INTWRECKPOD. Just another reminder, you will be able to find us on Instagram and TikTok soon. We'll leave that handle in the show notes. And yeah, find us, follow us, talk with us, and enjoy the race, everybody.
Can take what you want from